We're going to do this day 1 and day 2. As far as I get today, fine. And then I'll just finish it tomorrow because, I mean, I have an idea of what I want to do, but we'll see how far we get. So we're talking today about trig functions. All right, you guys, you don't need a calculator today. You're not going to need one. You're going to need to really pay attention though. We talked yesterday about theta. That's that Greek letter that like names an angle. Okay, you guys are familiar with SOHCAHTOA, yes? Yes. Okay, so SOHCAHTOA is SOHCAHTOA, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. We are dealing with right triangles today, so we're going to use that same thing. Have you guys seen the reciprocal functions? Okay, on your calculator, if you look at the calculator on the sine button, above it, it says sine -1. Those are inverse. That's how you undo. Reciprocal functions are different, okay? You need to memorize that sine and cosecant, that's cosecant, are reciprocals of each other. You need to memorize that cosine and secant are reciprocals of each other. I know you guys are asked, how come it's not sine and secant and cosine and cosecant? Yes, that would make more sense, but it's not. And then you have tangent and cotangent. Those are pretty easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to transition. We're going to transition from SOHCAHTOA to using the letters X, Y, and R. Okay? Where R is your hypotenuse. So if I have a triangle, and everything's always going to be based at the origin. So if I have a triangle, you guys will understand that this is going to be my X value. Why is the bottom, the horizontal, my X value? Because of the X-axis, okay? This is my Y value. Why is that the Y value? Okay, so those are like your legs, right? A and the B. And then your C is your hypotenuse. That's your R value. So we are doing the exact same thing that you guys have done before with SOHCAHTOA. And instead of using A squared plus B squared equals C squared, what would the formula be? X squared plus Y squared equals R squared. Very good. I don't know why I said R to the S, R squared. All right, do you guys understand? Does that make sense? We're doing the exact same thing. All we've done is just change letters. That's it. We're still going to transition. You're going to get to the point where you don't have to draw the triangle anymore. You're just going to know these trig functions. You're going to memorize that sine is y over r. Cosine is x over r. Tangent is y over x. And then when you have the reciprocals, you just flip. Okay? That's what we're going to go towards. So if you're looking here, if you have an angle and they tell you that it lies in the first quadrant, you're always going to draw your angle right here from the origin. So theta is at the origin. And then you have your x on the x-axis, your y here, and your r here. What do you know about your x and y values at point P? They're both what kind of numbers? Positive. Good. If you have something in the second quadrant, you're going to draw your triangle from theta, like I just said. The up and down, is the y. The left and right is the x, and then you have your r value. But what do you know about the x value in this ordered pair? It's negative, right? We need to remember those things. If you're in the third quadrant and you're drawing your triangle, it's always from the origin. So here is my up and down, my y. Here's my y. Here's my x, and I have a point. What do you know about that point? Negative, negative. Very good. And then in the fourth quadrant, what's positive and negative? X is positive, y is negative. Okay, one thing I want you guys to write down here. This is so super important. R is always what kind of a number? Positive. You can have a negative x. You can have a negative y, depending upon what quadrant. But if you square a number and add it to another number that is squared, your result will always be what? Positive. Okay, I just want to go through some examples here. If you guys want to take a screenshot of this, of these trig ratios, and go ahead and start memorizing them, it would probably be really helpful. Because again, we're going to transition from SOHCAHTOA to x over r, y over r, that sort of a thing. You got a picture, babe? Okay, so these are the type questions you guys are going to get. Is there a picture? No. So the first thing you should do is what? You should draw one. So I'm going to look at this, and it says the terminal side of an angle, terminal means the one that ends, is in a standard position, passes through the point 8, 15. Find the 6 trig functions. Okay? Where would the point 8, 15 be? First quadrant, over 8, up 15. You guys agree? It's right there. So you're going to draw your triangle from the origin. So you have your right triangle there. Go ahead and label this. My x value is 8. My y value is 15. So where am I going to put 8? Where am I putting 15? On my triangle. Where's my 8? It's on the x-axis. Where's my 15? On the y. So what are we going to have to find? The r. What is the formula that I'm going to use to find r? X squared plus y squared equals what? R squared. Okay, we can all handle that. I have 8 squared plus 15 squared equals r squared. What's 8 squared? Perfect. 15 squared. 225 equals r squared. Great. What's 64 and 225? 289 equals r squared. How do we get r? Take the square root. So what's your r value? 17. R equals 17. Always what kind of a number? Positive. So I'm going to go ahead and write x equals, what was my x? 8. I have my y equals 15. And then I have my r. So now we have to find all 6 trig functions. We're still doing SOHCAHTOA. We're just going to use the new ratios that you guys are going to learn. Take a picture and put it right next to it. The sine of theta. The more you write these ratios, the more it'll stick in your brain. What sine? Whatever what?
Opposite over.
Tell me what the ratios. Letters. Y over what? Y over r. Okay. What is cosine? What's cosine? X over r. Perfect. And what is tangent? Y over x. Perfect. Don't even fill them in yet, guys. What is the reciprocal of sine? Cosecant, CSC. What is your cosecant ratio? R over y. Perfect. So my cosine, what's the reciprocal? It's secant. What's my secant ratio?
R over X.
R over x. Perfect. And then cotangent is my reciprocal of tangent. What is that? X over y. Now this is really easy to answer the 6 trig functions, guys. Take your y value and put it over your r value. What is your y value over your r value? 15 over 17. Question. Talk to me. What's your question? All right, now from here, you guys can finish sine, cosine, tangent, or you can go over to the reciprocal. If sine is 15 over 17, what is cosecant? 17 over what? 15. Perfect. Cosine, x over r. Say it. Cosine, x over r. What's my cosine? 8 over 17. So if my cosine's 8 over 17, what's my secant? 17 over 8. Perfect, guys. If tangent is y over x, what's that? 15 over 8. So what's my cotangent? Perfect. Very good. All we did was opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent. That's it. We're just naming it differently. Now we're in grown up. Now we're in high school trig. You guys won't see SOHCAHTOA much anymore. It's all going to be these trig ratios. It's really important for you to memorize them. Setting up your triangle, getting a visual is what will help you be really successful here, because this is really not hard once you have your picture drawn correctly. So look at the next one. Yeah.
Does the triangle always have to be facing the left?
It's always going to be coming from the origin. So this is a different question. You'll see. It's a great question. The terminal side of an angle, theta, in standard position passes through. Okay, let's draw this triangle. Where is the point that it passes through? -3, -4. Where is that? It's in the third quadrant. It's right here, right? So I'm going to draw my triangle. It's always going to be from the origin. So do you see my right triangle? Your right triangle will always be formed at the axis. So my x value is -3, my y value is -4. So put that on your triangle. Which one's the x, left or right or up and down? Left and right, so this is -3. What's my y right here? Up and down. So I'm going to find r. So we already, every time you guys are doing this, they're going to give you two. They might give you x and r, they might give you x and y, whatever, but you will be able to find what's missing. I know that my x value is how much? What's my x value? -3. What's my y value? -4. Can I find r? Sure. How do I find r? R squared, good, equals -3 squared plus -4 squared. Some of you already did it. You get 9 plus 16 is how much? So r squared is 25. What's r? What's r? 5. Always positive. So now, guys, you have all the pieces you need to just throw all the trig functions together. Write them out. This is new to us. I know that. So let's write it out so we have a visual of what the actual ratios are. Sine of theta is what over what? Tell me. Y over r. Good. Cosine theta is what? X over r. Perfect. Tangent of theta is what? Wonderful. And now we're going to write our reciprocals. We're going to flip them. What is the reciprocal of sine? Say it. Cosecant. Cosecant. Sine and cosecant are reciprocals of each other. So what's the cosecant ratio? Perfect. R over y. What's the reciprocal of cosine? Secant. So we're going to call it secant. Say it. Secant. What is it? What's your reciprocal function? R over x. Good. What's the reciprocal of tangent? Cotangent. Perfect. And what is that ratio? X over y. And now all we do is just fill in the numbers. For sine, put y over r. What do you get? -4 over 5. Perfect. For cosecant, what is it? The reciprocal of sine, what is it? -5 over 4. Good. So cosine, x over r. What's cosine? -3 over 5. So my reciprocal of secant is -5 over 3. Good. Then I look at tangent. Tangent's what over what? -4 over -3, which becomes +4/3. Good. So what's my cotangent? +3 over 4. Good. So guys, when you have a problem like this, and all of them look like this, they're going to say, given a point on a terminal side, you need to graph. You need to plot that point so you know what quadrant you're in. Once you know that, excuse me, if you just want to go ahead and label x and y and find r, and then you have the trig functions in front of you, fine. But you've got to commit to memory that sine is y over r. Cosine, x over r. Tangent, y over x. And we need to know the reciprocals. What is the reciprocal of sine? Cosecant. What is the reciprocal of cosine? Secant. And what is the reciprocal of tangent? Good. All right, now let's look at this. These are a little different because it says finding the trig functions of quadrant angles. What is a quadrant angle? What separates quadrant 1 from 2, from 3, from 4?
The x and y.
The 90, the 180, the 270. Those are our quadrant angles. Your 90, 180, 270, 360. Those are your quadrant angles. So think about it, guys. What is the sine of all of this? Well, think about it. Think about this. If I know for 90, my x value is what? 0. My y value is what? 1. I have to find r. So if I do that, I have 0 squared plus 1 squared equals r squared. So 1 squared equals r squared. What's r? 1. Okay, let's go around here. What about -1 and 0? If I add those two together, square them and add them together. -1 squared is 1 plus 0 squared, 1. And then I take the square root of that and I get 1. What happens down here at 0 and -1? When you square both of them and add them together, you get 1. All right, what about at 0. So when you have anything that is a quadrant angle, what is your R value all the time? 1. So think about that. What's the sine then at 90? What sine? Tell me again. Write down what sine is. What over what? It's y over r. What's your y value? At 90. God bless you. 1 over your r value is 1. So your answer is 1. Okay? So flip that. What's your cosecant? It's r over y, which is what? 1 over 1, which is 1. Good. Let's talk about cosine. Write down the trig function. What is the trig ratio for cosine? X over r. Okay, what's your x value at 90 degrees? 0 over your r value is 1. Guys, what is 0 over 1? It is 0, correct. So now your secant, your reciprocal, if I have my reciprocal is r over x, what does my fraction become? 1 over 0, which is undefined. You can write undefined or you can write like the no solution. That is not 0. So let's go back and let's find our tangent. Remind me again what the ratio is for tangent. Y over x, okay. What's your y value? 1 over your x value is 0. So my answer here is undefined, no solution. What's cotangent ratio? X over y. So I flip that, becomes what? 0 over 1, which is 0. Perfect. Our quadrant angles, guys, are always going to give you either 1, 0, or undefined. So now we're moving over to 180. How's the ordered pair at 180 different? Okay, there's a negative. Your x value is -1 and your y value is 0. So again, let's go through it. Go quickly. You guys got this. What sign? What over what? Y over r. Good. What's your y value at 0? Good. Over -1 gives me 0. Good. So cosecant. What's the ratio for cosecant? My goodness. Ratio for cosecant. R over y. Good. What's your r value? 1. Over your y value is 0. So your answer here is? No. R is always positive. Oh, I don't know why I have that negative there. No, R is always, 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 always positive. What about cosine? What's my cosine? What over what? X over y. Okay, what's your x value at 180? Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? X over r. Thank you. I'm looking at the next one. It's okay, sorry. What's x? -1 over your r value is, so your answer is -1. Perfect. Reciprocal. My reciprocal of cosine is r over x. That's our secant, so r over x. So this is 1 over -1, which is -1. Great. And then the last one, tangent. Tangent's whatever what? Y over x. Okay, so what's your y value at 180? 0 over your x value is, gives you 0, correct? Cotangent is whatever what? X over y. So at 180, what's your x value? -1 over 0, correct? Which gives you? No solution or undefined. Good. So your quadrant angles are always going to be a little different like that. But if you have an angle that is on a quadrant, 90, 180, 270, 360, or 0, your r value is always 1. You can always work it out. Do y squared plus x squared. Take the square root. You'll get it. You'll see that. But that's all you got to do. All right. I have like 2 more things I want to go over. What time is it?
For things like,
Yes, sir.
so before you go,
So sine and cosecant, reciprocals of each other. Cosine and secant, reciprocals of each other. I look at tangent. Tangent is 1 over cotangent. So that means cotangent is the same as 1 over tangent. Let's think about this for a second. What is the ratio of x, y, and r for sine? What's sine?
it's
What is sine? What over what? Y over r. Good. Let's write it for all of these. So what's cosecant? R over y. Good. So let's go over here to cosine. Cosine is what over what? Perfect. X over r. So then my secant is? Good. Then I go to tangent. Tangent's what over what? Y over x. So my cotangent is x over y. You guys are going to do this probably one more time, and then everything's going to be like, oh, I get it. So if you were given a question and it said the sine of theta is 4/5, what's the cosecant? 5/4. How did you know that it was just flipped? Because sine and cosecant are reciprocals. Good. What about if the cotangent of theta was negative square root of 2 over 3? What's the tangent? Perfect. 3 over negative square root of 2. And then we look at that and go, oh, wait a second. We have to simplify that. You can just leave that negative out in front, guys. You don't have to make that a negative radical. The whole fraction's negative, so just write it. But what are you going to rationalize by?
Negative.
Top and bottom by the square root of 2, right? So this becomes negative 3 square root of 2 over 2. What about if it was negative 3 square root of 2 over 6? Could you simplify anything? Yeah, the stuff on the outside. Good. Good. All right, I have one more slide I want to do. Good, I got through everything I wanted to. So let's look at this question. It says, find the cosine of theta if secant theta is 5 over 3. They're giving us so much information here. What do you know about cosine and secant? They are reciprocals of each other. This is a really easy question, guys. If you know the secant is 5 over 3, then what's the cosine? 3 over 5. That's it. What do you know about sine and cosecant? They are reciprocals of each other. So if I know that the cosecant is negative square root of 6 over 2, then I know that the sine is... What's wrong here? There's a radical where? In the denominator. That's no bueno. So we're going to rationalize. Top and bottom by the square root of 6. Correct?
Yes.
So this becomes negative 2 square root of 6 over what? 6. Can I do something else? Yes. This 2 becomes a 1 and this 6 becomes a 3. So this is negative square root of 6 over 3. Good. Now, if they gave you a question like this, and this is what we're going towards. They gave you a question like this and they said, find the sine. Here. Well, what is sine? What over what? It's y over r. What did they give me here with secant? What they gave me with secant? They gave me r over x. So what would I have to do in order to find the sine? I'd have to say x squared plus y squared equals r squared, right? And I would fill that in. What is my x squared? So 3 squared plus y squared equals 5 squared. So we get y squared equals what? 3 squared is 9. 5 squared is 25. 25 minus 9 is 16. So your y value is 4. So then what's the sine? 4 over 5. That's what we're going towards. You're going to be given a trig ratio. They might say the cotangent is this. As soon as you hear cotangent, what 2 letters did they give you? X over y. Good. As soon as you hear cosecant, what did they give you? R over y. Good. If there's ever a time that they give you x over r or y over r and the fraction is negative, where does the negative sign automatically go? With the x or the y, because r what? Always positive. Oh my gosh, that was fantastic.